To manipulate history is to manipulate consciousness. And to manipulate consciousness is to manipulate power. And to manipulate power is to manipulate possibilities. Welcome to the show. We got a little sunshine in the day. We're going to take this day in, but they say it's going to be a little windy outside, so button everything down if you happen to be out there doing anything and taking advantage of this nice day that we're going to have. We got a great show for you today. As usual, we like to bring you good information that you can use and advise you, and that's what we do here. In the remote studio, we got our good brother Vince Robinson. What's going on, my man?
Man, there's a lot going on today. You know, the National Conference of Black Women had a conference last night in Independence, and they brought in Nikki Giovanni, and in just a few moments, in less than an hour, Nikki Giovanni is going to be at the new Huff branch of the Cleveland Public Library. So I'll be going by there to check that out. And also this evening, I'm going to be doing a performance for Judith Mansour. She is an author, and she's come out with a new book, and the Jazz Post will be backing her. So if you're not doing anything around 6:30, you can come to Beaumont School and you can take in the festivities. So yeah, that's what's going on. Just a quick update for those who are interested in the ARPA dollars that were coming from the Assembly for the Arts. I know we put out there that we were looking at the end of October to have those funds disbursed. We're still looking at possibly the end of November. So there are some developments that you will be apprised of in the next few days. But just hang tight. Those funds will be distributed fairly soon. We have a great show lined up for you today, and just want to let you know that there is an event taking place downtown Cleveland. It's called Operation 10 City Tour, and it's being spearheaded by Dr. Bill Winston and Bill Winston Ministries. They are going to be visiting, obviously, 10 different cities. One of them is Cleveland. I think they've already been to Detroit, and they are doing a number of things. They are having something yesterday was Freedom Unlocked, the Next Generation Experience. So it was young folks. They had a gospel performer there last night, and from what I understand, it was a great event. This morning, they actually had a free food distribution that took place in a couple of different locations, the Salvation Army and Euclid High School, and they distributed 1,000 food boxes. They're also having a sealing and expungement clinic, and that's being held from 10 a.m. today until 3 p.m. at the Huntington Convention Center, which is where they had the event last night. They had a business pitch competition this morning. They're having a business expo and career fair at that location today. And there's just so much about this. But the whole point of this, as I see it, is to engage young folks in the idea of being entrepreneurs and creating wealth. So to give you some insight on this great event, we have brought in the son of Dr. Bill Winston. It is Pastor David Winston. Now, he is very involved in his father's work. He is the pastor of Go Hard for Christ Youth Ministry at Living Word Christian Center, and he's the director of Bill Winston Ministries. He's got quite a story, and we wanted to have him on today to have him share his story with you and, more importantly, talk about the importance of getting young folks financially aware and involved in entrepreneurism. Welcome to 360 Info Network, Pastor David Winston.
Hello, Vince. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Thank you for being here, and thank you for stepping in. You know, we had hoped that we might be able to talk to your father, but I can see, based on your father is 79 years old, and he doesn't look like he's lost a step. But I know that you are doing a lot of the ball carrying right now. So talk to us about the importance of this event that you're bringing to 10 different cities in the United States.
Absolutely. I think it's no secret what we've been seeing in our communities, in society, and culture, especially in our urban communities. We've, last several years specifically, social and political issues, socioeconomic issues, and we really felt like now was the time. And when I say we, I know, it's been my father, Dr. Winston, and he's spearheading this, but we really felt like it was the time to bring economic restoration to these different communities. We know that there's many great organizations and churches that have been in these communities for many years, laboring and doing a good work. And we're just looking to come to each of these cities, and as we're in Cleveland right now, just looking to come to partner alongside with them to bring economic restoration and prosperity to the city of Cleveland, to close the wealth gap in black and brown communities through entrepreneurship and ownership. We're not just talking about having good church, and that's good too, but we're talking about economic revival to really change things in our culture.
Yes. So you have been to Detroit, and I looked at the video footage that you posted to the website, and I saw a lot of people expressing gratitude about what they were able to receive. But from what I can see, it's more than just about giving people stuff. It's about empowering them to create their own stuff. Talk about why it's important for folks to become entrepreneurs and to generate economies that can support communities.
Absolutely. Empowerment is our whole model, and we really believe that that's, what the Bible teaches. And we know that empowerment is important because, and that word ownership, because I like to say when you don't own it, you can't control it. And a lot of times, if we're waiting for other people to be able to give us things or hand us things or create our opportunities for us, then they remain empowered and in control. And what we want to do is we want to say, wait a minute, we have our own power. We have our own intelligence, our own genius, if I could say it that way. And if we can tap into some of that and understand what are the tools, the best practices, and maybe we can be a small part of being able to give people access to things and opportunities and resources so that they can start their own and that they could be their own owners of their businesses or their organizations, then we can change some things in some of these industries. And I really believe that ownership is a major component of being able to change any community.
Yes. I want to get into the woods, so to speak, dive in and go down this rabbit hole. But I don't want your story to get lost in what we're talking about. So I'm just looking at your bio, and you had initially intended to be a cardiologist, and something changed. What changed?
Yes, Vince. Yeah, since the age of 6 years old, I wanted to be a cardiologist before I could even spell the word. And really, what changed is my senior year at Oral Roberts University. I was at college, and I was at a conference, and God just spoke to my heart and said that that passion that I had for helping people get whole and healing hearts. That passion, I just misunderstood what that passion meant. I was thinking natural surgery, but God said, I want you to be a repairer of the hearts of men and to be a spiritual heart surgeon. And I really just took that to heart, and God, spoke to my heart and showed me some things. And I said, okay, well, this is what God wants for me to do. And I knew that He was calling me to the next generation to be able to equip them, to empower them, and to encourage them to pursue everything that God has called them to do.
And obviously it didn't hurt that you had a role model in the person that was in your household.
And you know what, Vince? I growing up, I actually didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't want to go into full-time ministry. As a matter of fact, I thought that Dr. Bill and Veronica Winston were doing such a phenomenal job that God didn't need another Winston doing ministry, here, in Chicago or wherever else we might be. But God had different plans, and He wanted me to follow in the legacy of faith.
Okay. And then you connected with your lovely wife, and it seems as though she has a similar pedigree to you in that she's very versed in Scripture and so forth and so on. Talk about how that happened.
Yeah, so I met my wife when we were both in Tulsa. I was going to Oral Roberts University, and she had actually moved to Tulsa some years ago prior to that to go to Rhema Bible College, and so she was a Bible school graduate. And we met through a mutual friend, and it wasn't something that was necessarily planned, but of course one of the best things that you can find in life is to find your soulmate.
Yes, and then Jacob, Jordan, Joshua, and Lily came about.
That's right. Yep. They came about, and so Nikki and I have 4 children all together, and our oldest Jacob, and then Joshua and Lily. They're actually here with us in Cleveland, helping out the mission, and so we made it a family affair.
Okay, and describe the Detroit experience. Did you participate in that?
Yes, absolutely. And so our participation specifically revolves around the youth and young adults, the next generation. And so last night we had a phenomenal event, and we had that same event in Detroit called Freedom Unlocked. And so what we're really doing is encouraging our young people to be able to pursue God, and to give them encouragement, give them hope, and let them know that there's opportunity out there. And so we had a great time, and we always have a great time. We do a lot of giveaways, and we're not asking for anything in return. We just want to be a blessing to the young people of that city. And so I gave away camera bundle and MacBook computer and college scholarships and other things. And we really believe in investing in our young people, so we're trying to give them tools that will help either equip them or resources that will help them go to the next level or continue on with the mission that God has put in their heart. And so we had a great time, and for every city, our strategy is we like to partner with all the churches who are already in that community. And so we don't like to come and say like, hey, we're here, everybody just kind of listen to us, sit on the sidelines. No. We have a model that is a teamwork model. So what we do is we contact all the different churches, and any churches that are available and open to partnering with us, they come alongside, and we do a lot of meeting, we talk, we strategize, we do research about that different city, just like we did in Detroit and as we did here in Cleveland. And then we ask if the different churches, if they have young people who have talents or skills that they'd like to display, maybe singing, dancing, acting, rapping, spoken word, whatever it might be. And we like to work them into the program for that Friday night service. And it's just a great opportunity for young people to display their gifts, display their talents, to get their local churches involved, bring out their friends and their family, and just have a platform to be able to display who they are, and what they're passionate about. And it's always a great time, and we love doing it.
Okay. David Winston, Pastor David Winston, is the pastor of Go Hard for Christ Youth Ministry at Living Word Christian Center. He's the director of Bill Winston Ministries. It's a worldwide outreach ministry, and they are facilitating a program in Cleveland. It's involving 10 cities, and we're going to talk more about the issues when we return. You're listening to 360 Info Network on AM 1490 WERE with your hosts, Hamtonio, and yours truly, Vince Robinson. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, I am Frances Caldwell, Executive Director of the African American Museum, welcoming you to join us as we continue to rebuild, grow, develop, and help the community. In addition to the rich historical exhibits we have, we are offering community education, cultural opportunities to enhance our children, including free dance and business classes. The African American Museum celebrates over 60 years as America's oldest independent Black museum. And as our founder, Ichabod Flewellen, intended, we are heading for higher heights and renew community education, history, and culture. You can contribute to the success of this valued institution by becoming a member. To make your $35 yearly membership pledge, Cash App $AAMCLE. For more information, please visit our website at aamcle.org or call 216-721-6555. Thank you for your support of Cleveland's African American Museum.
Welcome back to 360 Info Network. I'm Vince Robinson, and along with Antonio, we are talking to Pastor David Winston, pastor of Go Hard for Christ Youth Ministry at Living Word Christian Center, and they are facilitating a program in the city of Cleveland as we speak. It's called Operation 10 City, and it is being spearheaded by Dr. Bill Winston, who is a national figure when it comes to these types of things. Pastor David, just want to talk to you about the issues that are facing young people. You know, you and your father took it upon yourselves to engage in this outreach to young people to get them engaged in entrepreneurism and financial awareness as well as their faith, because I know that's an integral part of what you're doing. What, from your perspective, are the most significant issues that young people are facing now?
Sure. I think, and I think this is not new to this generation, identity issues. And when I say identity, I'm not necessarily talking about gender identity. I'm just talking about identity as a whole, just understanding who they are, what they're here on this earth to do, what they're about, what's important to them, what they value. I think young people always have to go through just a crisis of identity and trying to really understand what values and beliefs that they hold true for themselves. And I'm always a big believer that behavior is indicative of belief, and identity, behavior is the thing that's born out of identity, right? And so we behave according to whatever we identify with. And for us, we try to get people to identify with positive things. First and foremost, we want people to identify with God, and then that's part of our role here, in the faith-based space. But we also want people to identify with good, positive things and with positive influences. And so that's one of the issues. I think another issue that's plaguing the generation, and I'll say especially in the Cleveland area, I was doing some research understanding Cleveland, and I found that Cleveland ranked number one in the country for single-parent households. And that number was at 73%, according to the U.S. Census Bureau 2018 American Community Survey. And we found that 58% of homes are single-mom homes. And so, single parents out there, we understand, it can be a challenge to be able to raise kids as a single parent, as a single mother. As a matter of fact, when I met my wife, my now wife, Nikki, when we met and we started dating, she was a single mom. She had been divorced, and she had two boys, and so I got a glimpse of some of the challenges, that single parents have to go through, and juggling schedules and resources and working a job and still being a good parent and trying to give your kid everything that that they need, but yet still trying to provide and take care of them and make hard decisions. It can be a lot. And I believe that as the church, if we can step up and surround them to help them know that not only are they not alone, but we can help to provide resources. We can be that extra level of care that can provide wisdom and guidance and insight as a ministry, as a youth ministry or as mentors and youth pastors and leaders. We can help those efforts. And as the good old saying goes, right, it takes a village, right, to raise our young people. Well, we really believe that is true, but it takes the right village. And so we want to really help combat that fatherlessness with resources and with strong, positive, good, faith-based community.
Well, when you talk about that, I can only think about the importance of family. You just revealed something that I didn't know, and I'm sure many in the listening audience weren't aware of, and that is Cleveland leading the statistics in terms of single-parent households. When we look historically at the 60s and 70s, in a time when welfare was taking off and black men were discouraged from being present in the households, it just seems as though it's that snowball from back then to now, where we have the statistic that you just told us about. What can we do not only to encourage young folks to live in their purpose, but also think about the importance of family right now?
Sure. I think we have to get young folks and encourage our young people to live outside of themselves. I think that right now, the way culture is formed, there's a lot of me. There's a lot of me, self, I. What can I get out of this? What does it do for me? What's the benefit for me? And there's nothing wrong with things being beneficial for you as an individual. But I often encourage our youth, just be careful of the selfish nature of what the allure of success could look like, the selfish nature that can come in it. And so, I think, and you can probably remember in times past, even before kind of social and digital media and influencers and all that, before all that was a thing, the community just, I think, the awareness of the community and how you play a role in the community, how your actions and your behavior and even your participation really help to formulate the community. I think that was really a major emphasis. I look back to my parents and their generation and how community was really, really important. But because of the evolution of technology and how technology has almost changed our behavior as older generations, more newer generations come along, I think we have to be careful that important element of community doesn't get lost. I look at my own kids, right? And for us back in the day, we used to wait till our favorite television show would come on, and so we gather around the couch and watch our favorite television show. But it's not like that for them anymore. They have their favorite YouTubers and different people. Everything is on demand. You can watch it whenever you want. You got your AirPods in, and some teenagers, I see them all the time. They'll have their AirPods in for 5-6 hours, don't even take them off. Try to walk up to them and have a conversation, and it's kind of like technology sometimes can, if we're not careful, can lead us to this place where we kind of create our own insulated bubble. And it's about us. It's about how it makes us feel. And, if it isn't in our best interest, if we don't feel like it, we don't really do it. And so I encourage our kids, hey, we're going to set some time limits on this and that. And I want to encourage them to do things like the Operation 10 Cities. Hey, let's give back to the community. Let's not lose this element of helping other people, even when there's no direct benefit to us. And we believe that that's what the gospel is. It teaches us to show love and compassion to those and serve our fellow man when it has little to no benefit to us at all. It's just goodwill and good nature. And I think that if we can continue to teach those things and those values of giving back and serving your fellow man, I think that we'll be on the right road.
Mm-hmm. What you talked about has a lot to do with African culture. And I think in looking at some of the material that you have online, I think I saw that component in there. Could you talk about the importance, especially when you bring up this whole issue of identity, how important it is to relate to the African aspect of ourselves? When we talk about Christianity, many people don't realize that Christianity is an African religion and we're African people. So what you do connects people with an understanding of their relationship to Africa and the importance of culture in that family unit.
Absolutely. I think heritage is always important, right? And so I think whenever you're talking about believing or representing anything, I think it's always important to understand what the origin of that thing is, to be able to understand exactly what you're representing, what you're believing, and even representing something bigger than yourself. And so I think heritage is extremely important. I think as we look at kind of society and culture and what happens, especially when we talk about our youth for the inner city areas and some of those economically distressed areas, I believe that one of the best things that we can do is help them reconnect with their heritage, whether it's African heritage or just even African American heritage, which is, earlier generations here in America, but to help them understand that they have a heritage to be proud of. And to understand, where do some of these things come from? I mean, there's some common things here that we use every day that were invented by an African American. Some of even things in the culture, as you just said, and in Christianity and aspects that come from Africa that we're not even aware of come from Africa and come from our heritage. And so I think that the more aware we are of our heritage, the things that originated from our heritage, I think we would take more pride in representing our heritage. And then I think that would translate to having more value as a person coming from that heritage. When you have a strong heritage, it always makes you feel more significant, right? It makes you automatically, you feel more value, like, wow, like that came from my lineage, that came from my people, or we're representing something that I didn't know that we represent. And I think that's important for our young people, because everything that they do really stems out of the value that they have for themselves. And, when a young person doesn't have much value for themselves, they won't have much value for others. When they don't value their own life, they won't value other people's lives. And that means that it becomes easier for them to take other people's lives or treat other people's lives as reckless, because they don't have much value in their own life. But I think when we identify, like you said, with our heritage, our roots, and some of the special things that have come from us, that now amplifies the value. Yes. And I think in turn it will help us value each other better.
Yeah, that's very well said. And you point out something key in that some young people just don't see the value of themselves. They don't really see themselves living past certain ages because of the hopelessness and the helplessness that they live in. But when they have an understanding of who they are, they have an understanding of their purpose and the fact that we all exist for the benefit of others. Again, being steeped in one's culture allows one to be the contributor to the village for the strength of the village. Over the span of 18 months, you're planning to stop in 10 cities across the United States. And what I'm seeing here is that your intention is to promote entrepreneurship, economic empowerment, and wealth creation. And I know we can't do the whole conference today. You've got all you got going on today and the other cities. But if you could just give us some of those tools. So when it comes to wealth creation, for instance, what kinds of recommendations would you suggest to folks to build wealth?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let's just start with what you're good at. Let's start with, and there's a couple different ways we can approach it, but first of all, we'll start with what you're good at. Maybe there's a talent or a skill that you have. Maybe there's a way that you think or a service that you can offer up. There's so many hidden gifts and talents within people, and sometimes I think people are surprised that something that comes so easy to them could be something that can be monetized. Maybe you can organize well, and hey, we all have that closet that needs to be organized, right? And so maybe you can organize well, and maybe I'm a person who doesn't like to take time to organize. Maybe I don't have time, or I don't really think like that, or I don't really care, but I know that it's clutter, and it kind of clutters my mind. I get frustrated when I see it. Well, maybe I need your help, and something as simple as organization comes so easy to you. Not only does it come easy to you, but you like to do it. It's easy for you to do it. It makes you feel good when you do it. So that's something as simple as, hey, an organization business, or maybe even going on social media and just starting a social media channel just that talks about organizational tips, and just doing something just right out of your passion that effortlessly flows from you. I like to call it tapping into your own genius, right? And so that's one of the ways that it's a small step to starting to create wealth, because whenever we're talking about creating wealth, we have to talk about multiple streams of income. For anybody who's listening, you're not going to create wealth by just your job alone. You might have a high-paying job, and that's great. But when we're talking about wealth creation, we're always talking about multi-generational, and we're talking about something that can be sustained even after you stop working that job. And so for wealth creation, we have to create multiple streams of income. The first and easiest way to do it is something that you're passionate about, because it won't drain you. It won't make you feel drained. It won't make you feel like you're having to go outside of your area or your lane of not only just expertise, but of passion. And so things that you're passionate about, you're always going to want to do. It doesn't take much motivation to get you to do it. So something that you're passionate about. And then also creating passive streams of income. There's so many different ways you can create passive streams of income. I see it all the time on different ads, especially for social media. You have those different people who are talking about their testimony of being like an Amazon drop shipper. You have different other people talking about creating wealth and passive income through maybe rental properties, doing logistics. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about just different ways of passive income. I think, that's one of the reasons sometimes why people get in that influencer space or start, different social media things, because it can become a form of passive income, and you can start to monetize that. And that's something that, we're going to talk to our young people about today in our workshop this afternoon. But so we got to do something that we're passionate about, creating businesses outside of your job. We want to make sure that also we're creating passive income. And then also we want to make sure that we're setting up vehicles to be able to pass on wealth to our young people. I think one of the number one things that really hits my heart is when I see the people in our community and the black and brown communities, and I'll say specifically black people, being able to set up vehicles of wealth to be able to pass on something to our kids so they don't have to start over. When we're able to help them go to college debt-free, whether it's scholarships or whether it's financed and funded through the family or a combination of both, but when they can go to college debt-free, they can get learning and training and get an education, get a degree, and they can, get a good job. And then we pass on that learning about passive income and owning properties and doing things that you're passionate about, even on top of already still having a job and maintaining this. When we pass on that knowledge and then our child is starting at the age of 22, starting their professional career, and they don't have any debt, oh, that's amazing. Because most kids, especially coming from urban communities, are starting with one leg. They're starting the race with one leg because they have so many tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and now they're going to start their professional career. And what if they can start that not only with knowledge, not only being debt-free, but what if they start that and they already have a rental property in their name? Well, and that just compounds as you go through the generations. And that's something I think that other cultures and other races, really, I think that's something that they try to teach. And especially you go to other countries, that's something that they try to pass on to their children. And so what I'm saying is the reason why we're doing this is because we want to help change the culture. We want to help train young entrepreneurs and even older entrepreneurs how to create wealth, how to generate passive income, how to start their business, having something to pass on to their children's children so that nobody has to start over anymore. There's no more time to start over. It's time to start building wealth. It's time to start creating something that lasts, and that way we'll start to see our communities change as we take hold of economic empowerment.
Absolutely. Very key. As you were giving us that discourse, I was just thinking about something that happens in our communities quite often, and that is, our grandparents worked so long to get that house, and then they transition, and there was no plan left for what's going to happen after they're gone. So sometimes the offspring will sell the house. Sometimes because they didn't protect the property properly, the house goes into probate, and then the government gets the money, and we don't pass down generational wealth. Our dysfunction is largely because as parents, we haven't been responsible in educating our children, and we are depending on an education system that will have us working jobs and stuck with that sole income as opposed to developing the passive income streams that you talked about. So it's really important that we provide this education to young people and old folks alike. I want to bring Brother Hamtonio into our conversation and also acknowledge the fact that we have a caller, Todd, on the line. Brother Hamtonio, were there any issues or questions that you wanted to raise as we have this conversation?
Well, yeah, of course, a lot of things came to mind, and I appreciate the pastor really laying it out like that, and a lot of my sentiments as well. And speaking on a few things, when we talked about that statistical data about a single parenting here, like I said, it's really important to have that whole nucleus working together, and we need to do something to bring the black male in it and back into the picture. The African proverb is the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. And you tear that nucleus down, then you don't have to worry about the people. And then we have to transcend and dealing with this whole cultural heritage piece, as you may have stated. It's very important to have that piece into play as well, because that's your glue. That's the glue that everybody else have that you don't have. And your culture and your spirituality, whatever that might be, is kind of like intertwined and working together. And some things we have to be careful of too is that, again, we can raise a whole lot of financial independent thinking people that's really not going to move forward our cause. We got to simultaneously, as we teaching them about the finances and things, and making them understand the purpose and why they're doing it, building this whole community thing. And a lot of times we use black community all the time. I want to transcend that statement into black nation. When you start thinking about black nation and nation building, it brings along a whole level of consciousness, a whole level of strength and power and things like that. Because basically how we look at it, everybody here trying to get their own as far as heritage groups and ethnic groups is concerned. And we have to start thinking in that respect. So when we're teaching them those financial literacy things, they need to know how it works with the whole cultural dynamics of stuff and pushing the whole generation forward as well. And one of the last thing I just wanted to say that you touched on it because at one time I've been in the real estate business and you find out that people is not passing down that particular wealth like that. And and that tends to make us take a couple steps back because we're not passing on that wealth, and we're supposed to build those things on. One of the things we can all do right now is to get that piece of property, and if we just start with just being able to pass down a house to our kids that is free and clear, and imagine them not being able to pay rent and living free, and that give them more liquid cash to get out there and possibly try some things and get into entrepreneurship. And we can just do that one thing past where they can, like you say, get your education. When you talk about education, use their house as leverage to get that education if you had to. And that's what other cultures was afforded to by them being able to get these properties and get into real estate that we wasn't privy to. So we can just start by, passing down one piece of property to your family and getting them to understand to be culturally together. And even if they have to live in the same house for a minute until they all get together, it's like the people from India do. Buy one building, 5 families, and then until everybody else get a building of their own themselves. See, what brings that about and make that happen is cultural unity and understanding the greater good for the greater number.
Okay. Let's bring our caller into the picture. Todd, you're on 360 Info Network.
Hey, Vince. Hey, Antonio. I missed the very first few seconds where the pastor's name was introduced. What is your name?
It's Pastor David Winston.
Okay, David Winston. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I have 3 comments and 2 questions. Because I believe that in matters such as this, what you're talking about, it's important to use strict elementary language free from innuendo. I wanted to mention that your honorable pursuit, although good, is risky when you use the word fatherlessness, because if somebody's father is alive, they are not fatherless, and that's important. And what else is important here is that although there are a lot of children in Cleveland growing up in homes where just their mother is the primary runner of the residence, there's a large segment of Cleveland that are living that life but have daily access to their father. So their father may not be in their mother's home, but their father is in a home where they have daily access to their father. Consequently, they have access to their grandparents who may live somewhere in the city, aunts, uncles, and maybe some other brothers and sisters that are only made by that father and another woman. So it's real risky to lean on that statistic about how many kids are growing up in single-family homes in the city of Cleveland for that reason. The last comment that I wanted to make prior to my 2 questions is this: if you're gonna make the decision to push people toward learning generational wealth, it's a bad idea to say that they can't make generational wealth through their jobs, because generational wealth at its base is through currency. And if you have a high-paying job and you're living a lower middle-class lifestyle, you just through that job alone can pass on generational wealth. It's not smart to just rely on that, but it's very, very possible. Here are my two questions. You're moving from the Christian standpoint. As you help these children along, are you emphasizing to them that it's the Christian way more so than any other way, or are you giving them options for their minds to grow beyond that and still be morally good people? And then the last question is, do you have an opinion on this, that if you really want to build generational wealth, it's good to plan your family prior to conception?
Okay, two questions, and we got about 3 minutes before we go to break. If we don't get the full answer, we'll resume when we return. Thanks for your questions, Todd, and thanks for your comments. Pastor David?
Sure. And thank you so much, Todd. I can appreciate that, and thank you for your insight. Certainly, those with high-paying jobs may be able to have the leg up in creating generational wealth. I certainly believe that a career can be a part of that. But I was saying that I don't think that it should be just the only part, just one part. I think it can be a part of the puzzle, and to really create wealth. I think that's great to have multiple streams of income. You asked the question, what standpoint do we come from? We do represent a faith-based standpoint, and just in transparency. We have a lot of things that we do that promote leadership, that promote strong business and moral, ethical practices. And so we operate in many different spaces. As a matter of fact, we have a very robust prison reform program in the Chicago area called RISE. It stands for Restoring Inheritance, Stewarding Excellence. And so that is a faith-based program, but we have many components of that program that aren't necessarily just faith-based, but teach business and entrepreneurship, teaches leadership, and teaches other things to help them re-enter into society successfully. And so, but, when we teach young people, we are coming from a faith-based perspective, and I say that unashamedly, even though we offer other things through there locally at Chicago. We've offered other things that aren't necessarily solely faith-based, but encourage them and equip them on how to be good leaders for the community, how to have academic excellence, and we've had a number of programs to do that. And then I think the second question revolved around in creating wealth, is there a certain kind of place in which family planning comes to mind and comes into play, maybe as far as getting married or having kids? I don't consider myself necessarily an expert at wealth creation and wealth planning. I think having a plan mapped out for your life is always beneficial. When you plan to fail, or when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so, I think having some kind of map, 5-year, 10-year goal, I think can often be helpful, because I think where the issue comes in is when we kind of accidentally get ourselves into things, or maybe we didn't plan for things. And so I think whenever we're talking about marriage and family, I think financial planning with that in mind is always very prudent.
Okay. Pastor David Winston, the director of Bill Winston Ministries. They are in the midst of an event here in Cleveland, Operation 10 City Tour, and it will be in progress until this evening. We're going to talk more about that campaign, and we're going to talk to Pastor David about some of his passions when we return. This is 360 Info Network on AM 1490 WERE with Hamptonio and yours truly, Vince Robinson. We'll be right back.
Hi, I am Frances Caldwell, Executive Director of the African American Museum, welcoming you to join us as we continue to rebuild, grow, develop, and help the community. In addition to the rich historical exhibits we have, we are offering community education, cultural opportunities to enhance our children, including free dance and business classes. The African American Museum celebrates over 60 years as America's oldest independent Black museum. And as our founder, Ichabod Flewellen, intended, we are heading for higher heights and renew community education, history, and culture. You can contribute to the success of this valued institution by becoming a member. To make your $35 yearly membership pledge, Cash App $AAMCLE. For more information, please visit our website at aamcle.org or call 216-721-6555. Thank you for your support of Cleveland's African American Museum.
Welcome back to 360 Info Network. I'm Vince Robinson along with Antonio. Our guest is Pastor David Winston. He is pastor of Go Hard for Christ Youth Ministry at Living Word Christian Center, and he is the director of Bill Winston Ministries. They are in Cleveland today. They are engaged in something called Operation 10 City, and they are doing so many things. You know, they gave out a total of $17,500 in cash prizes. He talked about the things that they gave away earlier today and the workshops and the pitch opportunities, so folks can pitch something and then walk away perhaps with the start of a business. The question that Todd raised about one job being able to create generational wealth. It is possible to do it with a job, but there are so many jobs that limit income. And when we have the inflation that we have right now, and we have the devaluation of the dollar, we have the continued taxation and all those other kinds of things, if you're just working one job, it's extremely difficult to get ahead unless you have a high-powered job. If you have a high-paying job, you can put some money aside, you can invest it, and you can create more. But the reality for many people is that they're doing everything they can to meet their debt obligations, and it seems as though they can never get ahead. And then you juxtapose that against this whole idea that we're moving towards central bank digital currencies by the Federal Reserve Bank, and then putting expiration dates on currency, and they're engaged in this transfer of wealth that we're witnessing right now. Companies are gobbling up other companies, and you got companies like BlackRock that are gobbling up real estate and renting out single-family dwellings to folks who used to pay a mortgage payment, and now they're paying rent. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about with that right now, but I want to get back to solutions because, this 10-city tour is part of a solution. This 10-city tour is part of what is necessary to close the gaps that exist because the government is failing to take care of its people. We spend more money on bombs and weapons than we do on people. And as people, it's incumbent on us to come up with solutions to create a more beneficial reality for ourselves rather than the one that they are creating for us. So you have done Detroit, you're doing Cleveland, you got a few other cities that you are planning to do. Can you talk about your vision and the expected impact of what you do with this 10 city campaign?
Sure. So, the main goal with the 10-city campaign is to bring economic restoration and prosperity to each city. We want to close the wealth gap for the Black and brown communities through entrepreneurship, through ownership that we talked about earlier. And, each stop, we want to bring business workshops, we want to bring messages, giveaways, we want to do things that activate that hidden potential and instill hope. We want to inspire action in the community members. And I think, and I said a key thing that I don't want to get lost, to activate hidden potential. And I think that that's really one of the keys, whether it's potential wealth, potential earnings, or just hidden potential in the individual, that they can do more than they thought they could do, that they could be a contributor to the community and to society at a level that they didn't imagine that they could do before. And if we could just be a small player and instilling some hope and giving them a new vision or helping them refresh an old vision, I believe that we can see change in the communities. And that's what it's all about for the Operation 10 Cities, is we want to help just plant the seeds of change in the communities. We know that there's organizations, churches, and different people who have been working for many years, and so we're not trying to come and say, hey, we're going to do something that you guys couldn't do. What we're trying to do is to come and partner alongside of those who've already been plowing the ground to just really help try to amplify and accelerate their efforts.
Okay. So as we have this conversation, there's also the reality that many people are disenchanted with the church and disenchanted with religion in general. And amongst those ranks are young people. How do you go about engaging young folks who don't really see any value in the church or religion?
Sure. I think the issue of irrelevance, I think, unfortunately, our young people are starting to maybe see the church or be persuaded that the church is irrelevant. It's something that prior generations did. Now, what's interesting is I believe that, as far as statistics show, or some statistics, is that spirituality itself is up a little bit, but maybe church attendance and identifying with the church is down. And I think that maybe comes from the perception of the church. And the way that we're trying to approach this 10-city campaign is we're trying to change the perception of the church. Society is used to the church coming and asking for a handout, right? We're trying to get something, asking for you to do something, fundraising for something. But we're not doing that. We're trying to change the narrative. We're not asking for anything. We're coming to put a hand in, to rebuild the community. And I think that if our young people could start to understand that the church isn't just a place where we're just trying to get a little bit so we can fund our little programs here, but the church as an entity is a place where we're trying to be an encouragement and a facilitator of change in our local communities. It's not just about hearing a message. It's not just about the initiatives of the church. It's about the effect that us as a church can have positively on the community. And I call it, getting away from self-serving church, right? How does it make me feel? Just hearing a message or getting some good music and it makes me feel good. But what is the effect that we're having on the community? What can we partner together to do? What can I be inspired to do? And of course, we know devotion to God is, one of the primary things that, the church is preaching and teaching. But, something that we really center around in our ministry is teaching and preaching about the kingdom of God, the government of God, how how our beliefs and our faith and our giving and our love and compassion for people, how that spreads throughout culture and society to really affect different industries. And not that we're here to try to proselytize everybody. Hey, we want to get people into the church, and we want to do that too. But really what it's about is it's about infecting culture with the things that we represent, about morality and about giving and about love and faith and really helping humanity. And I believe that that's something that everybody would be on board with. And I think if more young people saw that coming out of the church, I think that they would be really more encouraged to get a part and to get involved in the local church to be able to be a part of that.
Well, I can definitely testify that what you're doing is not a small undertaking. I mean, you didn't come to a small venue. You came to the convention center. So if you have a small people in a very large space like that, it's going to look kind of crazy. But thanks to you and all of the things that you're doing to raise awareness, to encourage entrepreneurism, to encourage some type of moral code that people operate on, and to wake them up to their purpose. That is one of the most important things that anybody in life can ever do, and that is find out why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And how can I make life better for others? You have about 6 hours left in your program. Did you want to encourage folks to come down to the convention center? Is it too late for them to come and take advantage of what you're doing?
Never too late, Vince. Come on down to the Huntington Convention Center here in downtown Cleveland. We'll be there all day, and we still have some events happening this afternoon. We'll have some teaching workshops and master classes. We still have the Job Expo happening, and then tonight we have our doors open at 5:30, and we start at 6 o'clock with a gospel concert with Grammy Award-winning Donald Lawrence and Company, who's a gospel singer, and then our very own, my father, Dr. Bill Winston, he'll take the platform for a miracle healing service. He's going to give a great word of encouragement, and I believe that we're going to see the power of God, and we're really excited. So it's never too late. Come on out if you can. And as a matter of fact, Vince, we're giving out free parking, so we'll validate parking, for anybody who comes and parks in the parking garage. So this event is completely free, and you can go to Operation10City.com to learn more about it. That's the word TEN, Operation10City.com.
Thank you so much, Pastor David. This has really been an amazing conversation. And again, I commend you for you and your father making the effort that you can to fill in the gaps. It's vital right now because black folk in this country, we need all the assistance that we can get. And it's even better when it comes from ourselves. Thanks again, and much success to you in your 10 City campaign.
Thank you, Vince. I appreciate it. God bless.
All right. Mm-hmm. Brother Antonio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Where we at here? Okay, I'm looking at the time. It was good. It was some good information there. It's just again another spoke in the wheel. Of trying to get us and reverse some of the issues that has been happening with us. Financial literacy is very important to us as a people, but the saying always goes is that it's not all about that. You got to correct that mindset. And food and money soon depart. So if with that finance, we don't look at it as a community type of thing, a community effort, and a purpose for what we're doing, then it really just benefits that individual. They don't benefit the community.
Yes. And, as we have this conversation, the job situation it's in the process of a paradigm change. It used to be that you would go to a building somewhere and ask for an application and say, give me a job. But now it's not like that. You go online and you go to a website and you apply and they pay you and you don't have to go anywhere. You can sit in your house in your living room and work on your computer and make money. That's where the new opportunities are. And then, those passive income streams, you can develop all kinds of passive income streams, but if you go by the old paradigm, go to school, get a job, you'll never get ahead. Great conversation, and hopefully it woke folks up to the importance of entrepreneurism and developing additional income streams. You've been listening to 360 Info Network right here on AM 1490 WERE. We encourage you to go to our Facebook page. We post information up there that might be a benefit to you. So visit the Facebook page, like it, and you'll get notifications whenever we're doing something. With that, we'd like to thank our engineer, Tone, for pulling everything together. And thank you for listening. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your best day, Cleveland. Peace.
Peace.